Hey, forget everything that you've been told about integrity, my friends. Integrity, it's not good. Welcome back. I'm Mike, and today we're going to talk about integrity. Now, integrity is one of those things that you hear about all the time. If you're in business, in corporate, small business, doesn't matter. Everybody talks about integrity. And we talk about like it's this amazing thing. You'll see it on motivational posters. You'll see books written by it. Leadership people are really big on integrity. And you'll even see it in the core values. It's often listed. Integrity is the top one. Team integrity, hard work, all that kind of stuff. So I want to talk about this for a minute because a handful of years ago, maybe 10 or more years ago, I had this amazing experience around integrity, and it changed not only my understanding of the concept of integrity, but it also changed my personal life. It had an impact on my family in a way that was unexpected for me. I used to be part of a group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a global organization for entrepreneurs. It was when I was running my agency. And we brought in a speaker. One of my buddies on the board brought in the speaker, Dr. Michael Jensen. Now, Mike Jensen is a highly noted economist. He's at Harvard right now, and he does a handful of other things. He's on a ton of boards. He's been noted, published, and he's won a lot of accolades and recognition and awards around his work in financial markets and economics. But he came to talk about integrity. He was getting towards the later years of his career, and he wanted to devote his time to better understand this concept of integrity. And I think the reason being, if I remember correctly, and I had the honor about a month after he came and spoke, he was back in town again. I had the honor of having breakfast with him, and I shared the story that I'm about to share with you with him. I thought he would be interested. But he wanted to understand this concept of trust, and how do these soft things like integrity and trust impact a company's financial situation, impact our profits, our revenues, and our ability to be efficient and create value. So what Dr. Jensen understood was that we typically think of integrity as a good thing, meaning integrity equals good. If someone has integrity, we're essentially saying, well, he or she is a good person. They have integrity. But he would argue that this is not the case. You see, Dr. Jensen's argument is that integrity is really keeping your word. It's not about being good or bad. You can be a bad person and have integrity. If you tell someone, I'm going to break into your house at midnight tonight, and you do it, then you have integrity in the sense that you kept your word. Now that's your explicit word. You're still out of integrity with society because there are implicit agreements. We kind of agree with one another in society that we won't break into each other's homes, that we'll respect each other's private property, we'll respect each other's privacy. And there's some arguments about that in our society right now. What about private property? What about privacy? And where are the lines on those things? But both explicitly and implicitly, there are agreements between us. If I tell you that I'm going to get you a proposal by Friday, close of business, I've made a commitment to you. I've told you that I'm going to do something for you. And what ends up happening in business, according to Dr. Jensen, and I agree just from anecdotal observation, is that we don't often keep our word. We're always saying yes to things. We're jumping into meetings. We're committing. We've got action items. We're overloaded and overworked, underpaid, and all that kind of stuff, under-resourced. And we end up not keeping our words. So I might say, I'll get you that thing on Friday. Now I'm running behind. You know what? I'll work on it on the weekend. I'll get it to you on Monday. Well, you know that often when I make a commitment, I'm overcommitted. You know that I don't always hit my deadlines. And in fact, I probably miss them by a few days. By the way, I hope this is not the case in reality. I'm just talking about examples. You could ask my clients if I keep my deadlines or not. But what ends up happening is you start adding in time. If you need something from me, let's say you really need it on Monday, you'll tell me you need it on Thursday because you know I'm always late. Well, what this ends up doing is it adds overhead to business. There's a lack of trust. There's a lack of willingness to say, I know that he or she is going to keep their word. And so we add in fudge factors. If you're a freelancer, if you're a designer, programmer, developer, all those kinds of things, you know this happens all the time. The client's going to say, we need this the 1st of October. And the more you ask and inquire, you realize they really need it towards the end of October because there's a trade show in November. But they're trying to add some margin and fudge factor because they don't know that they can trust you. And so Dr. Jensen's work was to explore, well, what is integrity and what is trust and how do we build trust in organizations so that we can eliminate a lot of this overhead and waste and organizational strain and stress because we don't keep our word and we're not trustworthy. And he and his research partner, I want to say it's like Werner somebody, I'll post a name, should be up on the screen right now. He and his research partner developed a model, and they said, look, integrity isn't good or bad. It's a positive model. It's not good or bad. It's a neutral thing. It's just like money. Money isn't good or bad. The internet isn't good or bad. It's all in how it's applied. And their idea at its core is very simple, that integrity at its essence is keeping your word. It's being trustworthy. Now think of integrity from an engineering perspective. If you drive over a bridge, engineers would say this bridge has structural integrity. All the pieces are whole, there are no flaws, there's no rust, there's no corrosion, there's no fractures. It's designed well, it's put together and built well, it's been maintained well. It has integrity. And what that tells us is that I can trust it. I can drive across it without fear. It's when something lacks integrity that we begin to compensate, that we begin to fear. If that bridge has not been maintained well, as we see in recent news stories where there have been cutbacks, austerity measures, infrastructure has not been cared for as it should be. You have buildings collapsing, bridges collapsing. Those items lacked structural integrity. It's a simple model. And so as we look at ourselves and talk about integrity in our businesses, we often mean that I'm good. We have integrity. We're good people. We're honest people. But we often don't look at the contracts that we make, both the explicit and the implicit agreements that we have with one another. These commitments that we make, either by joining an organization, by committing to a project or a deadline. And what ends up happening is we add all this waste and overhead, and it's really because we don't trust each other. Now, trust is such a powerful thing. So the way to get around this is to build trust in your organization. The way to do that is to hammer home this idea of keeping your word. Now, here's the thing. Integrity doesn't mean that you never miss a deadline. Don't mistake that. Because here's what you do. If you've made a commitment, I'm going to get you that proposal on Monday. Now it's Friday and you're getting close and you don't think you're going to have it done on time. All you need to do is own that commitment. You just need to get in touch and say, hey, Mike, I'm running behind. Here's what's going on. I don't think that I can have it to you by Monday, but I can have it to you by Tuesday first thing. Does that work for you? That gives me an opportunity to say, well, let me negotiate this a little bit here. I think I can make that work. Thank you. That you haven't betrayed my trust because I didn't have to chase you down. You didn't avoid my phone calls. You didn't avoid my emails. You didn't give me some, fake answer when I got in touch with you. Well, there's this whole thing that happened and I'm so sorry, and give me some story. You took responsibility. You made a commitment. You owned it. And when you couldn't make the commitment, you came to me and said, I can't make it, but here's what I can do for you. I walk away from that engagement knowing that you are a trustworthy person. I didn't have to chase you down. And I can rest at ease that anytime I'm working with Susan and she's going to run into trouble, I don't have to worry. I don't have to wonder. I don't have to build in fudge factor because Susan's going to come to me proactively. She's going to tell me, Mike, here's the situation. I've got a pathway forward. And I can go back to whatever I'm doing with peace of mind. Now, I opened this video saying I wanted to share a personal story with you, and I want to do that right now, just real quick. So we have 3 children, and they're all grown. They're all adults or young adults. But back when our eldest boy was probably about 13, I'll say, he was crazy about video games, as most boys and girls his age tend to be. And we had this thing where we were really not crazy about video games. We kind of grew up playing outside as young kids, and as parents, we want to make sure that our kids weren't just staring at a screen all the time. And we could argue whether video games are good for kids' development, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care about that right now. But at the time, we wanted to be very circumspect around how our kids engage with computer games and all that jazz. So we'd say to our son, hey, it's okay, you can play for the next hour, but when the hour's up, it's time to shut the machine off and get outside. Well, we'd lose track of things in an hour and a half, and then he's still playing, and then you come downstairs, hey, I thought I told you, and he go, oh, I forgot, I didn't pay attention to the time, or, I can't stop now because I'm in the middle of this campaign, and if I stop, I lose everything. There'll just always be these reasons. We felt like we were just having to monitor him. We felt like we couldn't trust him. Now, he was a good kid, trustworthy boy, hardworking, respectful, loving, good brother. He was a good boy. But there was this one area of his life that was just out of sorts. And so I just heard Dr. Jensen's model, and I had this epiphany. I'm like, I'm going to put this to work. I'm going to test this with my son. And so my wife and I sat down with him and said, look, this is out of control. We don't like it. We've had it. So going forward, you are not allowed to play video games. We're just going to take that privilege away from you. But we're not going to punish you. Really what we're looking for is when we're convinced that you're a man of your word, when we're convinced that you're trustworthy, that you keep your word. And we explain this whole concept of implicit and explicit agreements and keeping your word and what you do when you can't keep your word, when something comes up and how do you handle it. We shared all that with them. And we essentially said, when we're convinced that you're able to do this, then we will let you play. And we're not going to probably control and monitor you because we're just not interested in that. So as soon as you're trustworthy and as soon as we don't have to think about it anymore, then you actually have liberty. You have freedom to play video games. And so a few weeks probably went by. I don't remember the exact amount of time. And we started noticing behaviors, not just around video games, because obviously he wasn't doing that, but just the way that he was keeping his word around the house and the way that he was behaving. And so we sat him down and we said, you know what, we're happy to give you that privilege back. And from that moment forward, he was phenomenal. He really took it to heart. He just took responsibility. I saw in a matter of weeks my son go from being an adolescent boy to a young man in his mental demeanor and his attitude towards his character and his commitments to us. Now, he did share with me, he's like, at one point I thought I could just try to trick you guys. This is the mind of a young guy, and sometimes maybe an older guy too. I think I'd just trick you guys and pretend like, you can trust me so that I get the privilege back, because at first all he could think about was the privilege. But what we ended up doing was put the onus on him, that he had to have integrity, they had to be trustworthy. And as soon as that coin dropped for him, it all came together. And we saw a transformation both in our son's character and in our relationship with him. Now, he went on to play video games. He didn't give them up. He enjoyed them. I think he still does from time to time. But it didn't own him. He owned it because he took ownership for his word, for his commitments, and his character. And that's why I wanted to have breakfast with Dr. Jensen. I wanted to share with him this thing that you shared with me. Yes, it was powerful for my business, and yes, it unlocked my understanding, but even more so, it was transformative in my family. We were able to deal with a really challenging issue in a matter of weeks, and it was effortless and painless, and it caused our son to grow. So I want to encourage you, if you're thinking about things like character, trust, honor, honesty, take a look at Dr. Jensen's model. I'll post some links in the description below, and check it out for yourself. It's very powerful. And I think if you have any organizational responsibility, any familial responsibility, you'll get some value out of Dr. Jensen's work. If you've enjoyed this video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe. I'd love to have you join us. The channel's been growing nicely, and we talk about things like entrepreneurship, and wealth and value creation, fulfillment, abundance, a little bit of branding and marketing here and there. I would love to have you join the community, join the conversation, and be part of the squad. Because I think we have a squad. Do we have a squad? I don't know. 85 subscribers, is that a squad? Why not? So do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, join, and shoot me a comment. And love to know you're here, love to hear your thoughts, and engage with you. Guys, thanks so much. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.